Hello, greetings from Lisbon. My name is Ana Cristina Antunes and I'm here to make the presentation entitled Can macro-influencers have an impact on the customer's journey of their followers? And I'm here also on behalf of my co-author, that's Carla Morteira, and we are both from School of Communication and Media Studies from the Polytechnic Institute of Lisbon in Portugal. Our agenda for today's presentation will begin with the main objectives of this study, and then we'll proceed to the literature review and also briefly present the method and the main results. And finally, we'll discuss our results and present a conclusion. So, the objectives of this empirical study were several. First, we try to examine the followers' perception of macro-influencers, but also we wanted to analyze the impact of a specific social media influencer type, that's macro-influencer, on their followers' customers' journey. And we also wanted to identify predictors of followers' intention to continue following the macro-influencer in the future. Briefly discussing the theoretical framework, we know nowadays that social media influencers have become increasingly important for brands and for marketeers that rely more and more on influencer marketing nowadays. Statista even addresses this and tells us that global influencer marketing market value stood at 16.5 billion US dollars in 2022, and this amount has more than doubled since 2019. So we can say now that influencer marketing has become one of the most popular forms of online marketing, and that social media influencers are now considered as relevant actors in this interactive marketing era. And they are, according to Wang, characterized by bidirectional value creation and active customer connection, engagement, participation, and interaction. When we address what has been already researched regarding social media influencers, we see that their influence, their impact on the consumer decision process has already been examined by many researchers, although globally, not on specific types of influencers. And the researchers are consensuous, talking that awareness, information search, and purchase intention are the three phases are influenced by social media influencers. That is, the dialogue between the social media influencer, the digital influencer, and their followers can either explicitly or implicitly raise the awareness and develop a need for a specific product by increasing the exposure to brands and products and services. Also, they are quite relevant when it comes to information search, since they are considered an important source of word of mouth and electronic word of mouth, and they help their followers to obtain up-to-date and personalized advice. Also, when it comes to purchase intention, that's not the actual decision, but the intention. There's a gap here. The literature has mainly focused on the characteristics of the social media influencer that can influence these purchase intentions. For instance, authenticity, credibility, attractiveness, and so on. But studies so far have not yet provided conclusive evidence. So, there are several gaps here in the literature. Namely, Janssen and his colleagues alert us that much remains to be explored to gain a better understanding of the value of digital influencers as instruments for marketing communication, and there is still a high amount of uncertainty about how consumers are affected by the influencers. Also, and in spite that influencer marketing is gaining momentum among scholars, they have already highlighted the need to address potential differences among the several types of social media influencers and to examine if they have or not a distinct impact on the consumer's journey. So, In this empirical study, we adopted a quantitative approach using an online survey, and we use in this case, lifestyle macro influencers on Instagram, and we went to their followers and applied this survey. So these macro influencers on Instagram are influencers like Bárbara Corby, Helena Coelho, Maria Vaidosa, Vanessa Martins, Alice Trenyard, Margarida Santos, and Inês Mocho. And our measures were on the perceived credibility and perceived content utility of the macro influencers, but also considering their followers that are also Instagram users. We tried to address the reasons to follow the macro influencers, the perceived similarity with the macro influencers, the perceived entertainment and satisfaction that followers derive when following the macro influencers, but also we try to obtain more information regarding their decision to search and buy the products promoted by the macro influencer and their intention to continue follow macro influencers in the future. So our sample is composed by 460 participants that follow lifestyle macro influencers on Instagram, mostly females, as we can see, 96.3%, mostly young, until 35 years old, mostly with a degree or with postgraduate studies or at least possessing high school, and employees or students. When it comes to the reasons to follow macro influencers, our results tell us that many of the followers have a need for motivation regarding inspiration and obtain information from these followers, from these macro influencers, more than the need for entertainment or social connection. Also, when we address the macro influencers' credibility and examine the physical attractivity versus psychological and communication qualities such as being charismatic, being original, being talented, being authentic, being inspiring, being sincere, being honest, being reliable, apparently the followers are more driven regarding their perception of credibility by these psychological and communication qualities than for the macro influencers' physical attractivity. Also, when it comes to the perceived utility, the followers split more or less even regarding the utility derived from the information that the social media influencers provide and that allow followers to improve their personal growth, but also the information that they provide on brands, on new products and services, and also by social connection with people. Then we proceeded to several regressions to examine potential factors that could influence, have an impact on the intention to search or intention to buy the products that are promoted by the macro influencer. And when we see these results, we understand that all these factors are significant, although perceived utility seems to have more weight in the development of this intention to search more about the products that the macro influencer talks about. Also, regarding intention to buy the products that are promoted by the macro influencer, all the factors previously examined also have a role here, although it's a minor role that suggests that there are other factors not examined in this study that can influence this intention to buy the promoted products by the macro influencers. Also, when we join the intention to search and buy the promoted products, we see that all the factors have a significant impact on this intention, but perceived content utility seems to have more weight. Regarding the intention to continue following the macro influencers in the future, apparently this derives mostly from the entertainment that's obtained and satisfaction from following the macro influencer, but also by the perceived utility of their content, more than credibility and similarity. Although these also are relevant, are significant in the intention to continue following the macro influencer in the future. So let's proceed to the discussion. And according to our findings, the main reason to follow macro influencers is to be inspired and obtain relevant information. And this is consistent with what the literature already tells us, namely the works by Rachel and Frisk and Jarova and Rushworth on the social media influencers in general. But it's important that the content um, to be unique, original, fresh, authentic, engaging, and personal, to be able to capture the attention of the followers throughout time in this attention economy. Also, the results suggest that several factors that are either macro-influencer related or follower related, they have a significant impact on the follower's consumer decision process. So it seems that this intention to search and buy products is complex and it's closely and deeply intertwined with several factors named perceived credibility, perceived content utility, perceived similarity between the macro influencer and follower, and also perceived entertainment and perceived satisfaction when following a macro influencer. And entertainment, satisfaction, and perceived content utility seem to be the main predictors of the intention to continue following the macro influencer. And this is relevant since these factors influence the loyalty towards the social media influencer and lead followers to continue to follow their advices and recommendations in the future. And this is important for brands and for their use of influencer marketing strategies. So, regarding the contributions of this empirical study, it provides empirical study on a specific type of social media influencer, that's macro influencers, attending to the classification proposed by the Veerman et al. And Campbell and Farrell in 2020. And we also provided empirical evidence on their impact on their followers, that subjects that remained understudied. And the findings also promote a better understanding of the main factors that influence their followers' consumers' decision process and their loyalty towards the macro influencer. But our study is not excerpt of limitations, and it has several. For all convenience sample, mostly composed by women. It's important that in future studies, other types of samples, for instance, a representative sample is used. This study only focuses on the Instagram platform. In other platforms, other results can be obtained. And also, it is a cross-sectional research design with correlational relationships, and we cannot assume a causality between the factors and the variables that we studied. So I'd like to thank you all for your interest and for your attention. If you want to talk with us, if you want to send us an email, you have here our email. That's antunes@esques.ipl.pt or cmorteira@esques.ipl.pt. Thank you all.